Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dealer Talk. Very excited to start a conversation today. Before we get rolling, let me check in with Erik. Hey, Erik, what's going on, man? How you doing?
What's up, Herbalicious? Let's do this deal, man.
Oh, man, those nicknames of yours are... All right. So our guest for today is... She's pretty amazing. She's been in the industry for 22 years. She's done it all. Now is the president and founder of her own company. And I'm very excited to have the conversation because I think the perspective here is going to be incredible. So without further ado, let me introduce Kim MacPherson. Kim, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Awesome.
How are you guys?
We're doing amazing. Yeah, super excited to have you on. This is going to be an amazing conversation. Before we get rolling here for the listeners, could you just kind of give us a little bit of your background and like what you've done and everything all the way to what you're currently up to?
Oh my goodness, we're going to need a couple hours. So I started selling vehicles in '96, fresh out of, actually I went to 1 year university. I was dissecting a pig, making a joke about it. My supervisor said, "We don't think this is for you." I said, "You're right." So I was told I'd probably be good at sales. And then I saw a article in the newspaper, and they were looking for a sales professional, and you could get a car. And I was 19, and I thought that was cool. I didn't realize that there were absolutely no women selling vehicles, and I was just a girl. So I just walked in naive and said, "You want me to be selling cars?" And we went through the process, and I started selling vehicles. Luckily, I walked into the best group in the city, the Erik and Group here in the Atlantic provinces of Canada. And they were formerly teachers and had invested a lot in training their staff. That's when I fell in love with process training, because it really set me off to a good start. I was really fairly successful selling vehicles, stayed doing that for some time. Also got my university degree under my belt, and I was actually in a Chrysler dealership in 2001, and we had a company come and do, we refer to it as a super sale event, and it drew in a less than perfect credit, or at that time, actually, all the ads were, "If you have bad credit, you need to come to this sale." So I didn't really know what that meant, except for I had lost a couple of deals here and there where, I had to tell customers that the vehicle I sold them, they couldn't have, which was pretty shitty. So I was in this big sale, and I really took to it. I really enjoyed working with the customers, and there was some things about the process that I didn't like on an ethical level in the beginning, but I could see that this was something that I was interested in. So I spent some time learning actually from that company about the sale business, transitioned, got myself a couple of partners actually from the US, and we started to do some sale events. So I was a partner in a company called Royal Promotions, and we did super sales up the East Coast of Canada, and mainly the East Coast was most of our clients. And of course, we were able to do some in the US also. And then I transitioned that into a used car dealership in 2005, I believe it was, with the same partners. Total focus was on non-prime. At that time, the market in non-prime was been about 15%. And so I got really good at understanding what worked and what didn't work and dealing with this customer. By 2006, it had grown a lot. Non-prime in my area in the East Coast of Canada was growing to closer to 20%. We had just kicked butt in our dealership. A lot of the new non-prime lenders had taken notice. And I was at a point with my partnership where I was looking to move into more of a training company and offer this up to other dealers. and they were interested in selling cars in a way that didn't really jive with me. More get the deal now, big grosses, not thinking long term, not thinking fix. So I parted ways with them, started my company in 2005, and really with the help of a lot of lenders, product companies, other dealer principals I had met. I was writing articles at the time for World of Special Finance and doing some speaking stuff, and then I just sort of walked into in dealership training, workshops, and helping dealers set up and optimize their non-prime departments, independent dealers and franchise dealers, and that's basically still what we do today.
Nice, right on. And I definitely wanted to talk to you about your current company, your current what you're currently doing. But before we get into that, I had a question here that I was really thinking about. When we found out that you were going to be on the show, and given your extensive background, right? You've done sales, you've done financing, management. Now you have your own company within the industry. So your perspective, right, is very rounded. So what do you see, right? Like and obviously there's not a one thing that you can say, hey, this is it, right? But what do you see is kind of like the disconnect between all the different departments, right? Sales to finance through management, and so on and so forth.
The disconnect, leadership. Attitude reflect leadership, and it sucks in most dealerships, and I hate to say that so confidently because it makes me sad, to be honest. Yeah. I find that there's a divide between all the departments. Why are we not really friendly with service and parts? I mean, there's tons of sales to come out of there. Why is there that friction? Why is there the friction between sales and finance? Like, dude, if you're sitting in a finance office and you're not loving up your sales professional, you got problems because all your deals come through them. We got sales guys out there getting their teeth kicked in every day. You can tell where I come from and where I kind of stay loyal to is no matter what I've done, if somebody asks me, Kim, what do you do? I sell cars. I sling rides. I help people get through.
I like that.
And I move units. I help people out. And I think what makes me an effective manager, because all of our training is hands-on. We go into a dealership and I step into the role as sales manager for a period of time. We certainly do, lay down the process training, but one thing I noticed in dealerships is that it's so foreign for both the finance and the sales team to have to go through a coach. And I'm not sure if it's that way so much in the U.S., but in Canada we've given salespeople a computer in an office and said, go through your deals. And I'm thinking, what? I think we got to get back to the basics, and managers have to get better at coaching and listening to their customers. Things are changing and customers have different needs.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And reading through your bio, I was struck by the fact that your statement is that we want to help you, meaning the dealership, serve the non-prime customer effectiveness and ethically. So which I think is a phenomenal statement, especially when referring to the non-prime customer, because as dealerships tend to think as non-prime customers as somebody that's less than ethical maybe and less of a person. I mean, how do you get them to listen to what your message that you bring to the dealership?
It used to be, like years back, the dealer would approach us saying, hey, my guy, my friend in my 20 group, this dealer, he told me about these sales where I could sneak away down the street, nobody would know it was me, and we could make a fortune off of these people. So it was about money in the beginning. It's always about money. But for them, it was more about the opportunity and doing it in I don't want anybody to know I'm the dealer participating in this. So it was very, I call it stinky. And I could never figure out why. So I'm thinking, the non-prime customer is the same as everybody else. You're just going to pay a interest rate, a shorter term, and you're not going to get as much money as everybody else. We just got to figure that equation out. And if we serve them correctly, they'll come back. They'll be more loyal than anybody else.
Right.
Now, today, how dealers approach me is, you got to help me. I'm losing 20% of my deals. My sales department is wasting so much time, days, weeks, months. Some of it's the fact that it takes so long for these guys to close the deal sometimes. But, they'll work and nurture these customers forever only to find out this guy can't get approved. He can get money. I know he can get money. The dealership doesn't understand that he can get some money. And they've already sold him a $60,000, full-size Ram, and so we're hopeless. We're dead in the water. So the dealer loses the sale. They wasted time, sales, finance, the whole service, probably recon, there's so much time wasted. And so, of course, that all means loss of revenue. And in our country, if we take a look at just the stats, so DealerTrack, which does 90% of the loans through our company, so they deal with, they house all of the financing, all the banks for most manufacturers. Also, 40% of those contracts are written through non-prime lenders. And I think dealers are starting to see that. I certainly scream it to the top of the mountain. Not everybody has bad credit, but they don't qualify for 0% either. And so how are your teams listening and managing that customer when they walk through the showroom and say, I don't want to fall in love with that vehicle just yet until I know I can get approved. And that's literally what people actually say. And you know what we do? We take them for a test drive. So, hello. They don't have a coach in the background going hello. Oh, let's go for a test drive in that truck. What the hell just happened here? Right. So I think right now it's a problem, and the problem is we're selling cars the traditional prime way to half of a market that can't buy that way. And a lot of people think that the solution to this problem is going to happen in the finance office, and that could be more wrong. The solution to the problem has to happen on the sales floor, where the first touch, the first interaction over the phone, online, via email, text, Facebook, walk-in, all of that happens with somebody in the sales department. Maybe the BDC or your internet lead guy or whatever you want to call them, but it's sales. They don't touch your finance department first. And if we don't catch the person in the beginning of the sale so that they have the opportunity to say, look, I went bankrupt a couple of months ago. I don't know if you can get me approved. Yeah, no problem. Let me introduce you to Susie. She's one of our finance managers here. She's going to find how much money you can get a loan for, at what interest rate, what term, and then I'm going to match that money to a vehicle. How's that sound? Oh, that sounds good. Okay, perfect. Fast track to the finance office and get the money. Same way we would if we were buying a house.
Wait, let me ask you this. I love that mentality. So, does it require a separate department for that? Does it require only then a separate kind of training? I mean, is it just more training, or is it a completely separate department in your view?
Okay, are you guys ready for a big secret?
Yes. You gotta whisper though.
I have to, because, oh golly, man, this is going to get me in trouble. But I'm a truth talker.
Bring it.
I find that I have to trick GMs and dealer principals because they have it all figured out. But they haven't been walking around talking to their customers for some time. They really, I believe, don't know how big the non-prime problem is. And so part of our marketing is that we help them set up non-prime departments because that's what they think they need. They think what I'm going to do, that's Canada right there. They think what I'm going to do is come into their dealership and help them find a finance manager, put them in a corner and do all their bad credit leads. And that couldn't be further from the truth because that's not where the problem's solved. And that's the most competitive market right now. Everybody's buying leads. Everybody's, and so now every dealership has a bad credit person who handles the bad credit customer. But the real problem lies in, I think it was SBA that just shared a stat. It was like 6% of the market has perfect credit. 6%. So you know that about 35 to 40 somewhere in there have bad, I shouldn't say that, 20 somewhere in there have really bad credit. So what's going on with all these people in the middle? Well, what's going on is that they're meeting a salesperson and they're saying to their salesperson, maybe that they don't have bad credit, but maybe like through a divorce last year, we've got a lot of debt that we still have to work out. I have to get out of this Mazda 3 because my ex-wife's still on it, and we owe a lot of money on it. So a trained salesperson in non-prime picks up on that and says, you know what, no problem. Why don't we sort all of the money stuff out first, and then you come meet me and we'll take a look at some vehicles. I'm going to introduce you to John. John's our finance manager here. He's going to take care of that. Let's find out what we're dealing with money. Let's sort all those questions out that I can't answer. So really, to answer your question, when we go into training, we lay down the process for sales, finance, and management team. And then we activate a sale. So we'll do a sale for like 2 or 3 days. So that we just generate, and not a bad credit sale, just a sale. So that they can see with me managing their sales team how much of these customers would actually prefer to buy a vehicle finance first. And that's how we capture people ahead of vehicle selection and help them really know how much money they can get a loan for, what interest rate, what terms, and then we can match them right to a budget that they want to be at instead of trying to close them on an $800 payment when they make $1,800 a month.
Right.
Hello.
It's all right. Rent's not important, or food.
Yeah. Just climb, because we made him fall in love with it, and now I'm going to make him feel like an awful piece of shit when he's in the finance. Right?
That's right.
Brilliant. Who came up with that one?
Oh, that's good stuff right there for sure. So,
the key ingredient is sales. We got to sell vehicles differently to this customer that knows that they're not perfect. So if you don't have perfect credit, you might want the opportunity. Hey, we have an additional service here. Sounds like you have a lot of questions around finance, rates, terms, budget, money. I'm going to introduce you to the finance manager. You could ask all those questions. Because I still hurt. Right? And I think a lot of it's humility too. It's okay, and that's led by a sales manager. It's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to say you don't have the answers to the interest rates. You don't know what the interest rate is. You know what the interest rate is from the manufacturer, but you have no idea staring at somebody what interest rate they will qualify for. So why are we quoting payment?
Right on, yeah. So I had a question. We had Ali Reed on the show recently, and he was the top salesperson in the country in 2017. He broke the record. And one of the things that he mentioned in an interview that he had done in Automotive News was this concept of, walking the deal, right, from A to Z. So he's the salesperson, does a test drive, picks the car with the customer, he does his own financing, the whole deal. What are your thoughts on that process? Because, that's something that I've always thought would be a better consumer experience instead of pawning off the customer, right? We seem to do that a lot in the automotive industry. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that would be more effective overall, or is there a specific reason why it's done the way that it is, and it's just not advantageous to kind of change that model?
Yeah, one of the first things that we do when we're talking with a dealer and his management team is we take a look at how they're currently selling vehicles, what's working, what's not, and we talk approach. So there's a couple of approaches that can work. There's a couple that I favor because I've seen them work better than others. So it depends. Independent or franchise dealer first. Not really that's a big deal. I just find that making a huge shift in a franchise dealership can be difficult. So you really have to work with the sales and finance team to figure out how you're going to reroute the traffic, and that's always going to come through your sales professionals. So in that model, you might want to set up what's called an approach for non-prime that would be what I would call a producer. So a producer kind of sits ahead of the finance team And you train your sales professionals to hopefully catch the less than perfect credit customer prior to vehicle selection. If that's the case, then a sales professional takes the credit application, just enough to pull a credit bureau to the sales desk. Credit pulled, the sales manager should be briefed enough, should have enough training and knowledge of credit to assess, can we sell a car today? Is this a prime customer? Is this going to take a little bit of work to get the money? Or is this a customer that doesn't have a job and we should not be driving big red trucks? And if it's a deal that looks like based on the credit bureau, this customer, in fact, needs a little help getting some money, it would move to a producer. So that's basically a finance manager that doesn't really do a whole lot of talking to customers. They just get money. So think of somebody by their computer with stacks of folders, just dealing with the banks and getting money. And then they manage their finance team. So this is our prime customer. You're at 3%. You've got, this is how the deal's structured so far. Go for it. This is the non-prime customer. We've structured this vehicle in here. This is the one that the customer, the bank says yes to. And you've got a little extra money for warranty, gap insurance, some protection there. So they prep the producer would prep their finance team so that the finance team doesn't have to juggle the time of working prime and non-prime. Because non-prime always gets kind of pushed to the side. So Model 1 producer, Model 2 would be both, all your finance team learns how to work prime and non-prime deals. So the sales professionals would come right through into finance office. Whether it's prime or non-prime, they know how to swing both ways. So the turnover at the top of the sale or the turnover at the bottom of the sale, they're equally as skilled. That's very difficult to achieve, and usually I only recommend it if you're a small dealership. You've got one, maybe two F&I managers, and they're producing like maybe 30 to 40 cars a month, and you can't justify a producer type of model. And then some of what you guys refer to, and I guess Ali Reed uses, is where it's a dedicated non-prime manager or just a salesperson with the ability to work finance also. And they take the deal front to back. And usually we see that a lot in independent stores, where, you might see 5 or 6 people there and they're going front to back. I'm not against it. I find it a little bit difficult to manage from a management standpoint. And I find also that the gross profits can be lower than they should because it's very easy for sales professionals in that case to get sold. The bleeding heart. Listen, I'm all about ethics. I'm all about doing things right, making sure we create repeat business and retention program and all that good stuff, but I don't work for free.
No, I so agree in that mindset. That's just the bangs coming out. And so let me ask you about, can you just briefly kind of explain the benefits of your Buy It Smart program and Sell It Smart program and then your Level Up training? If you could, I just want to make sure we're exposing you.
Sure. So Level Up is a workshop that we're having in Toronto next week, where I've taken a couple of industry non-prime experts that I've met in the past from finance, digital, and then I'll be handling sales management. And we're just, I call it a dive deep for to get the non-prime process. And what we've done is we've asked our participants, our dealers, to come with their GM and their FSM. So that we can pull the two departments together. I find a lot of our workshops that we offer, attract a lot of FSMs where they're sent out, sales manager says, go learn non-prime.
Yeah.
I've been starting to get frustrated by that because it's really not solving the problem. It's a great lead generator for my business, but it really wasn't getting into solving the problem for the dealer. So we're experimenting with this to see if we can pull all that knowledge together in one day and really help some dealers just really get the concept that they've got to attach the sales portion to this non-prime problem that we're in so that we can fix the problem and then look for opportunity. Buy it smart and sell it smart. They work hand in hand. So we went through, my company was called Mac Automotive in 2005. We went through a rebranding about 2 years ago as we started to do a lot more private sales with our dealers. And I hate to use the word private sale, but that's what everybody is going to recognize it. We don't use the marketing from the dealership's database unless they have the information that allows us to see if we can call and bring back in non-prime customers. But basically what we do as part of our training is we go in and we do the process, lay the foundation for sales, finance, and management. And then, like I mentioned, we do the sale event. And that's a buy it smart sale event. So all of our marketing is messaging, a lot of digital, radio, on the ground marketing to create a lot of hype and draw in the customer with a message that says know before you shop. So here you can come to this event, you can come to this sale, and you can know that you're approved before you start shopping. Get your best approval before you start shopping. So that's our messaging to try to really guide and direct the customer into the dealership, frankly, without having to say that they have bad credit. I find it demeaning. So we just came up with a better way to alert so that our customers walk through the front door, they raise their hands, make it real obvious for ourselves. like, I don't believe the customer ever wanted to say they had bad credit, but I think they get so desperate. They actually say, look it, dude. Stop showing me this vehicle. I have bad credit. Buy Smart is really is a brand that we're lifting right now to help dealers just create that message. And they can use that messaging for a short period of time while we're doing the training. Moving forward, I see that as something that will grow significantly, just in general, Buy It Smart. So just educate consumers that they can go into dealerships and they can bypass the sales team and ask to speak with a finance manager. And I think that would help a lot of customers for sure, and a lot of dealers.
Right on. Yeah, man, it's been amazing to have you on. Time just seems to fly by, but
it does.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back on and continue the conversation. There's a question that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and that question is, where do you see the automotive industry headed within the next 5 years, and why?
Well, I don't see non-prime customers vehicles at a vending machine.
That's good.
You know what? I think that a lot of all this great innovation, I mean, it's exciting. It's been a really exciting time in automotive. But same time, we really have to step back and take a look at who our customers are before we start planning all these, plug in our vehicles, eco this and that. We got half of our country that doesn't know how they're going to pay for this stuff. So if there ain't nobody to buy it, I don't know why you're making it.
Yeah.
So I would say the future of our industry, I'd say we have to take a hard look at how we're going to solve this problem of credit-wise, and then try to help people out, get their credit back in shape. And I think that will make a big difference. We'll be able to see actually what our real consumers can buy and what they do buy, and then make adjustments in our industry to match that. That's just me. Good old Kimmy from Canada. What do I know?
Right on.
That's your answer. That's the whole point. Yes.
Yeah, no, great stuff. Really, it's been super fun to have you on. Just for the listeners, could you share how they can get in touch with you?
Sure.
And I'll also add that on the show notes as well.
I love LinkedIn. It's like my most favorite thing. You get more out of LinkedIn from me than anywhere else, really, from a business-to-business standpoint. You can message me there. It's just my name, Kim MacPherson. You can find me. Or my website, www.sellitsmartcanada.ca. There's a link there. You can subscribe or send me an email right through the website. and we'll connect, and that's it. I'll help you.
Right on. Awesome.
Share the love.
Yeah. Thank you again. Thank you so much. It's been so fun. I really appreciate having you on. I'm sure Erik has as well. That's it, folks. We'll talk later.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.